My family lore is that my great-great-great-great-grandfather brought the first grapefruit here from Cuba and started the first commercial grove. He did quite a few interesting things. He consorted with pirates, and he was a slave trader and fenced goods to pirates or for pirates and different things of that nature.
Hello friends, in this episode of the Ground Up podcast, I speak with Laura Jones. Laura is the wife of Dr. Pierce Jones, who was featured in the previous episode. When I went up to Micanopy to film the Pierce Jones episode, I had a chance to meet Laura over a lovely dinner the night before. It was at that time that I discovered that Laura is a direct lineal descendant of Count Odette Philippe. Count Odette Philippe is credited with introducing grapefruit to Florida in the early 1800s. I was so fascinated by this family connection that I wanted to sit down with Laura and explore in more detail the origins of grapefruit farming in Florida and the mysterious lore of the Count. I hope you enjoy this episode. Well, Laura, I asked Pierce to give up his seat because I was really looking forward to asking you a little bit about the history of the Florida grapefruit. And
Okay.
It turns out you might be one of the best people to talk to about that subject.
Maybe.
Maybe. My family is from France originally, as we were talking about last night, and we have had this 45-year journey with Florida grapefruit, it's been fun. It's been rewarding. It's been a struggle. We've seen freezes and canker and now citrus greening, but we're not giving up because we think that the Florida grapefruit is so special. In fact, we've had the privilege of traveling all over the world selling Florida grapefruit to Japan and to Europe, and everywhere we go, people say the Florida grapefruit is the best grapefruit in the world. So it truly is special. How did the Florida grapefruit get here?
Well, my family lore is that my great-great-great-great-grandfather brought the first grapefruit here from Cuba and started the first commercial grove. It may have been here otherwise, but as far as a commercial production, he is credited with the first.
So, what time frame are we talking about?
Well, it would have been in the early 1800s.
Okay, and so first of all, that means that you are a Floridian that goes back generations.
Right. He was the first non-Indian generation here in that area of Safety Harbor.
Mm-hmm. So non-Indian, so before any white settlers?
Right.
And his name was Philip?
Odette Philippe.
Odette Philippe.
Yeah. And he is referred to as Count Odette Philippe, but that was just something made up. He wasn't really a count anywhere.
Okay. So that's interesting. Where was he from? Was he from Cuba?
He was, it's said that he was a French-speaking man, Creole man from Haiti.
Okay.
But he was born in Lyon, France.
So a French-speaking Creole from Haiti who was born in Lyon, France, came to Florida and planted the first commercial grapefruit grove in
Safety Harbor.
Safety Harbor.
On the bay, on the Tampa Bay.
And you are a direct lineal descendant of this.
Correct.
This man. I'm so amused that we met as we did last night. I've known Pierce, of course, for, how long have I known you, Pierce? 10, 15 years? At least. And my family, we speak of the legend of Odette Philippi because he was born in France, just like my father, who was born in France, and I was born in France. And maybe we're on two ends of the timeline. Here we are fighting for the survival of the commercial Florida grapefruit grove, and your ancestor brought it over. But he was a colorful character, somebody making up titles like this. He's not really a count.
He was very colorful, and in newspaper articles about him and in the couple of books that have been written, that's how he's described, as a colorful character. They don't ever call him on the basic lies about his accomplishments, but he did quite a few interesting things. He consorted with pirates, and he was a slave trader and fenced goods to pirates or for pirates and different things of that nature. But to a poor southern family, this was kind of a grandiose thing in our family, something to be proud of, and the whole family has continued to discuss this and come together every year for family reunions on Father's Day, and that will happen again this year on Father's Day.
Oh, wonderful. So you guys really cultivate and keep this history alive in the family.
Right, right.
That's extraordinary. So Florida, back in the early 1800s, was a very interesting place, I'm sure. There were a lot of pirates circulating in the Caribbean and in the Gulf. I guess that's why our Tampa Bay football team is called the Buccaneers.
Correct.
But there weren't a lot of settlements.
No, there weren't.
It was a wild place.
And my grandfather, who is, closer in time than Odette Philippi was, he told stories about riding horses and trading horses with Indians in Miami, and he would drive horses from Tampa down there and camp with Indians, and he told stories about catching gopher tortoises and cooking them over open fires and things like that with Indians. They couldn't communicate verbally, but they did come together and discuss horses.
So what is maybe one of your favorite stories in the lore of Odette Philippi?
Well, my understanding is that he was married 4 times, and one of his wives was a native woman, and she's buried, I believe, in Charleston. But that was very interesting to us, that we might be descended from Indians, but we weren't. It was another European woman that he was married to that we're descended from.
Yeah, so he had 4 wives. He was trading with pirates. He made up fictitious titles.
Yes, especially about being a doctor. That was he claimed to be the Surgeon General in Napoleon's fleet, and he claimed to have gone to school with Napoleon, which doesn't line up because there's a 20-year or more age difference between the two. But for a child at the time, that was pretty exciting to think that your relatives were part of known history.
Well, I would argue that they are, because the history of the Florida grapefruit is very important. It's, as I said, it is a truly unique and remarkable fruit that stands out as the best grapefruit in the world. And there are very few products that you can say that of. That this
True.
is the best in the world. I would say you might be able to say that of Cuban cigars. I don't know, I don't smoke cigars, but I've heard people say that. Scotch whiskey.
And as a child, I can remember climbing up into the grapefruit trees in my grandfather's small grove, and he would peel them for us and hand us the segments, and these were the unimproved white grapefruit that was not terribly sweet, but we loved it, and we would sit up there and eat these sections that he would hand to us, and I can remember the juice running down my arms and the sooty stuff off of the grapefruit trees getting all over us, and really enjoying those grapefruit.
Yeah, and it's a shame that we've lost so many trees, but as I was talking to Pierce, I think with regenerative farming practices and investing in the soil with compost and perennial peanut ground cover and other regenerative practices that reduce pesticides and herbicides, I think we can bring it back. And if that's not going to work, we can do it inside covered protection. We've been planting grapefruit under covered protection. It's a system called cups, and the trees are doing really well there.
I'm hopeful that that will be successful, because I would really hate to lose the marvelous fruit.
We won't lose it. I will tell you that my family will fight until we have no fight left. But I think we can be successful with cups, that's for certain. And we most likely could be successful with regenerative farming practices outdoors, and perhaps the university will present some new solutions to greening down the road. So there's always going to be a market for Florida grapefruit because it does taste better. Mm-hmm. It's got higher bricks, higher sugar content, and so that balances out the acid and creates a flavor profile that is delicious. Mm-hmm. And we like to say a good grapefruit eats like candy.
Absolutely.
But that's not the case other places. Even in the Caribbean, if you take that same fruit in Jamaica or Cuba, all around the Mediterranean where grapefruit is grown, Turkey, Spain, Israel, and out in California, Chile, Peru, I've tasted them all. And that you don't have that balance of bricks and acid that creates that delightful taste that we have in Florida. And that has to do, I believe, with the climate, mm-hmm. and our soils, and just the perfect balance of temperature and sunlight can't be replicated. Mm-hmm. So something like that is worth fighting for, and I really believe that there will always be a place for the Florida grapefruit.
I hope so.
Yeah. So I'm so honored to know you and to make this connection with Odette Philippi. But I do have another question. You said he was the first commercial grapefruit grove, but what does a commercial grapefruit grove look like or mean in the early 1800s? Who was he selling to, and what was the outcome of his enterprise? I
don't know. If it must have been more than local, because he had a homestead. The land that he had, it was the government homestead that people got, 170 acres on the Tampa Bay, and so it would have been in a good location for distribution on the bay. There weren't any causeways at that time across the bay, and my grandfather later was a ferryman going across the bay before the Courtney Campbell Bridge and some of the others were built. So I'm thinking that the shipping from that location, it's right on the bay where the orchard was.
So that's interesting, because Jimmy was explaining to me that the way that citrus was introduced to the New World, or one of the reasons it was introduced, is because it was used as to protect the sailors against scurvy, mm-hmm. because I guess they needed the vitamin C, and so I could see that if there was a lot of ship traffic through that area, that mm-hmm. would in fact have been a very good commodity for him.
I would think so, and that was one of the ways that Philippi was recognized and appreciated, was by helping some of the sailing crews from having scurvy. Mm-hmm. That was actually probably how he got his designation as a doctor, mm-hmm. because he was able to.
Well, maybe he wasn't a fabulous after all, because food is medicine.
True.
and maybe that's how he became friends with all those pirates.
Yes, it was definitely part of it. Yeah.
Well, what fascinating history, and I see you have a book on Odette Philippi, so I'm going to try to find a copy of that.
Sure, and it is available in Safety Harbor in the museum. They have those books for sale there, and a lot of other information about him.
Great, so I will make a pilgrimage to Safety Harbor.
It's worth it. It's a wonderful little town. And the park, of course, Philippi Park, is there on the bay where his grave is. So you can stand in the place that he grew that grapefruit.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful history, and I wanted to thank you for the delicious dinner last night. I was raving about it to Pierce, about the this cattle that was raised here and fed on the peanut that's grown here, and it was humanely butchered here, and we ate it here.
And delicious.
And it was delicious. So
Well, I'm glad you were here to enjoy it.
you have a beautiful property, and you know, it's been a real pleasure for me to get to know Pierce and to work with him. He's really meant a lot to me and to my career, and so now to meet you and to get to know you and to make this connection has been just such a treat.
Oh, thank you. We've enjoyed it too. Hope to see you more.
We'll be back. I'm going to bring my camper. Thank you.
Thank you.